Check. 1, 2.
The D Brief. This is the D Brief.
Go. Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
This is the D
Brief.
Welcome to the debrief for the week of January 8th, 2018. It's our very first episode of a brand new year, Mike.
Yay!
Hey, Happy New Year.
Welcome back, brother.
Thanks, man. I am your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
And I am Mike Jeter.
And we're going to have an awesome year this year, I think. We're just going to cover everything in the Detroit arts and entertainment scene.
So far, so good, man. We're a few days into it, and it just seems like everything's magical.
Good things are going to happen in this city this year. I predict it.
New year, new me, right? Is that the... I hear one more person say that. We'll strangle the crap out of them.
Here's how I know it's going to be a good year in Detroit, though. I turned on CBS this morning over the weekend, and they did a story on the best places to travel to in 2018. And guess who was on the list?
Pawtucket.
No.
No?
Detroit. Yeah, and they were talking about the comeback, and just photos of that make the city look beautiful, and just talk about everything that's going on. Short segment, but it's nice to get props. We're seeing it more and more. Lonely Planet, New York Times, now CBS this morning. So
people should be proud of that, man. They should be celebrating that, telling their friends, spreading the word, the gospel of how great Detroit is.
So lots of good things going on in this episode here today. We have dropping by the studio Robin Runyan. She is the editor of Curb to Detroit. She's going to talk to us all about real estate. I love that site. I follow that site. Stories pop up in my Facebook feed all the time. I love it when they do the thing where it's like, here's what $1,000 to get you in Detroit, and they show you, apartments that are $1,000.
It gets you a lot less than it did about 10 years ago.
That's true.
$1,000 would get you a whole block in Detroit 10 years ago.
So we'll talk to her about that. Also, I got an opportunity to talk to Cynthia Jones from the Henry Ford Museum about the Science Behind Pixar exhibit. We'll talk to her about that. And James Gietzen is one of the organizers of the Plymouth Ice Fest. You been to this Ice Fest?
Oh, yeah.
This event sounds cool.
If you like ice.
I do.
And you like fire.
I like fire. That was the thing that attracted me.
They're able to work them both in.
Yeah, and some chainsaws in as well. So
Games of Thrones.
We'll find out all about that. Plus, we have a very big announcement. We are looking for a co-host in 2018.
A third co-host. Yeah, we're not replacing either of us. Yes,
right. We're going to stick around. We want somebody new to join the show. We want a new voice on it. So if you're into the Detroit arts and entertainment scene, if you love the music and the comedy and the film and the theater and the food and the drink and all the things we talk about on this show, maybe it's you. Maybe you could be the co-host. Right. So if you want all the details and you want to let us know, hey, I want to join the podcast, you can go to thedebriefdetroit.com/co-host. All one word, COHOST, and check it out and let us know. But anyway, all that's coming up in this show.
This is the D
Department
Brief
of Corrections.
All right, this is one of our New Year's resolutions for 2018, Mike.
I think it's more yours, not mine.
We screw up every once in a while, right?
What do you mean we?
All right, I screw up every once in a while. So this is something new that we're going to do.
Perfect.
Look, we're not journalists here. We're not, we don't go around and fact check. We're entertainers, right?
That's true.
But we do live in the era of fake news, and
we don't want to be a part of that.
No, we don't want any part of it. So here's the thing: if we make a mistake, we're gonna call ourselves on it. And if you hear us make a mistake, by all means, shoot us an email: info@thedebriefdetroit.com. Let us know. And if I make the mistake, I'll take $5. I will put it in a jar, and at the end of the year, we will give that to a charity. If you make a mistake,
I will take Seth's $5 and put
that's not the way it works. But the first $5 of the year are going in. A couple episodes ago, we were talking about Tiger Stadium, right? Remember that? We were talking about the history of Tiger Stadium and opening day. And at first I said it right that opening day was April 20th, 1912, and then I transposed the numbers in my notes and I said it was April 12th. 1920. That's not correct.
Right. So the question that you asked me is void. So really, I've only missed like 2 questions.
Right.
Okay.
Wait, no, I don't think that was right. I don't think that affected.
Void.
I don't think it affected your score.
It tremendously.
No, but
it threw me off. It threw me off.
All right, we'll give it to you. I'll that time I'll give it to you.
Thank you, Alex Trebek.
And I'll put $5 in the jar. Coming up in just a moment, we're going to talk about the concerts happening in Detroit.
The D Brief
History lesson.
All right, we do this, especially if you're new to the show. This is something that we do every episode because I am the new guy to town. I'm
the old kindred spirit.
Yes.
that haunts everyone's dream. No, I hang out here. I'm born and raised here. This is my area.
You're the native. You're the guy from Pontiac.
So I'm trying to teach you something.
Right. I only moved here 2.5 years ago, so I got to know. You know, I want to sound cool when I go to cocktail parties. I want to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So at the end of every episode, you give me a homework assignment, and I go do some homework. I go research it. It's been a while. You remember what you told me to go research before the break?
Of course I do, because it's one of the coolest things, little known things that people know about Detroit. The salt mines.
Yeah.
Below the city.
So it's
an entire city below the city.
It was amazing. It was funny that you mentioned this because I hadn't heard of it at all. I had no idea until I went on a tour.
That's why I'm here, man.
It's good that I have a friend like you.
I'm just saying.
So I went and did some research. Here's what I found out about the salt mines in Detroit. Because you're right. There's an entire city there. It's huge. It's amazing. So 400 million years ago, there's basically some salt deposits that were left here by, whatever geological force.
Aliens.
Yeah, they they didn't discover the salt until 1895. And then in 1906, the Detroit Salt Mine and Manufacturing started building a mine there. But the company went bankrupt and then reorganized, and then they completed this 1,060-foot shaft. That sounds tall.
Wow, it is.
I mean, I'm 5'4".
That's about 2-3 feet taller than I am.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So they completed this shaft in 1910, and by 1914 they were producing 8,000 tons of rock salt each month. That is a lot of salt.
That is, especially for back then. It's like, what exactly would they use it for?
Yeah.
I
don't
probably
know.
for candy, because back then they didn't.
Well, and you've got to figure you got to go find out an equal amount of pepper to go with it. And I don't
pepper
know,
mines,
right? Who's going to go do that? So then in the 20s, 1922 to 25, they built a second shaft. And these shafts are like 6 feet by 6 feet, right? So these are not big shafts. They actually had to put a machine shop down at the bottom of it. So when they wanted equipment to go down, they would, disassemble the equipment, send it down, and then they would build it, reassemble it back down. If they had big tires that would needed, they would deflate them, tie them up, send them down. Just crazy stuff. But the mine closed in 1983, changed hands a couple of times, and it was reopened by the Detroit Salt Company in 1998. And I thought this was interesting. They use what's called the room and pillar method. So what they do is they go in, they dig out like half the salt, and then they leave the other half there for support. So there's these pillars of salt just kind of holding the ceiling up, I guess. And today they're mostly producing salt for de-icing the roads. That's where it all goes to. So, yeah, not sure.
Yeah, if you've ever driven in Michigan, you know that our roads are horrible.
Yes.
So thanks, Salt Mine.
Thanks, Salt Mine. Listen to this, though. We're talking about 1,500 acres, over 100 miles of roads down there. I mean, you aren't kidding when you say that there is a city down there.
Yes, sir.
Stretches from Dearborn all the way over to Allen Park.
Yeah, and that's a haul, especially on our crappy roads.
Yeah.
That's a very big haul. Yeah, man.
So that's amazing. I mean, I would love to go see it, but
no public tours.
No public tours.
Yeah.
So, no.
You'd think it would be in Detroit, it would be more like a Lowry's salt mine.
Yeah.
Maybe a seasoned salt mine.
You think so?
Because there's a lot of season, a lot of pepper, a lot of salt.
No, it's all used for the roads. So there it is. That's my little report there on the salt mines in Detroit. I do what I can. That's my homework.
Yeah, go find some videos, man. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
So you've spent some time on YouTube, just go checking it out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Here's the way it works. I always return the favor, right? You give me the homework, and then I give you a pop quiz.
Are the dates right on this one?
We'll see. I'll grade it on a curve just in case. So here's the deal. I will give you 3 statements. 2 of them are true. 1 of them is false. And you have to identify the false statement. You don't have to do it right away. You got till the end of the episode. You got some time to think about it. But are you ready?
I am.
All right, here we go. Statement number 1. The only animals ever in the salt mines were the donkeys that were brought down into it. There are no mice or other vermin down there.
Okay.
Statement number 2. The miners would dig holes, insert explosives, and blow out 900 tons of salt, all in less than 3 seconds. And statement number 3. Major Hollywood studios, including Disney and 20th Century Fox, keep original copies of their movies in the mine, just in case there is a nuclear holocaust or other catastrophic event.
All right.
Don't want to lose those movies.
No. Bambi is. We got to have that for future generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Give it some thought. We'll find out at the end of the episode if you can identify the false statement. Also on the way, there's a Pixar exhibit, speaking of movies, that's over at the Henry Ford Museum, and we will talk to those folks about it.
This is the D.
Concert calendar.
All right, Mike, let's take a look at some of the concerts that are coming to town. On Friday, January 12th, Cowboy Mouth is going to be at the Magic Bag in Ferndale. On Saturday, January 13th. This looks cool. We've got the 5th Annual North American Conference on Video Game Music. That's
What?
happening. Yeah. I think that one's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, it better be.
That's happening at the University of Michigan over in Ann Arbor. All weekend long, the Detroit Symphony Orchestra has got Mozart and Beethoven. It's part of its Davidson Neighborhood Series. So they actually go around to different neighborhoods and do this. Thursday, they're going to be in Southfield. Friday, they'll perform in Clinton Township. And
dope.
Sunday, they'll be in Beverly Hills. And if you get there an hour early, there's like a special concert talk with the conductor. You get kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what it's all about. On Monday, January 15th, The Killers going to be at the Masonic Temple. You can't go because it's all sold out.
Oh, man.
Tuesday, January 16th, Passion Pit. I love that band. They're going to be at the Royal Oak Theater, and Anti-Flag is going to be at the Magic Stick. Plus, a very special congratulations going out to Detroit's very own Eminem. Listen to this. Mike, he's the first act to score 8 consecutive #1 albums.
Wow.
That's a big deal,
That's a huge deal.
right? I mean, there have been other acts that have had 8 #1 albums. Jay-Z, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, but those were not consecutive. Eminem's the first one to have 8
Wow.
consecutive. So, yeah, that's a big deal.
Congrats, Em.
Congratulations to Eminem. Tom, coming up in just a bit, we're going to talk about the stand-up comedy shows coming to town.
Keep up with us.
The D.
Download our mobile app.
The D. Brief.
All right, Mike, you a Pixar fan?
Huge.
Really?
Huge. Much prefer them over Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's Disney's Pixar.
I mean, I like the Disney back in the day, but yeah,
No,
the
man.
last couple decades, it's definitely been...
I have never stayed awake for a Disney film.
Are you kidding?
Not one.
Aladdin?
I've fallen asleep in all of them.
Aladdin?
Yes.
Wow.
Here's the story. Quick story about Aladdin. I fell asleep. Took my oldest 3 kids. They were little when it came out. Went to go see Aladdin. Started watching it. I got to the part where Aladdin met the genie.
Yeah.
And the genie is singing.
Yeah.
I woke up. He and
serenaded you with
No,
his,
he and the
Jafar?
his girlfriend.
Oh, Jasmine.
Jasmine. See,
Oh,
that's just how
I
a
had a
little.
crush on her.
Yeah, he and Jasmine are on the rug, flying off into the sunset.
That was it?
And then the credits roll. I slept through the whole film.
That's wrong.
And this little girl, when the lights go out, the little girl says, "Mommy, that's the guy that was making all the noise." I was snoring my butt off. Sorry, Disney.
All right, then. Well, it's a good thing you're a Pixar fan because there's a very, very cool exhibit that's been going on for a couple of months over at the Henry Ford Museum. It's called the Science Behind Pixar. And it's going to be there through
Dope.
March 18th. Yeah. So this would be something like, I think I would take your daughter to
Man,
this.
I'm all over this. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think she'd be into this. Honestly, I don't even have kids. I want to go. I think it
Well, you
sounds
can take my daughter. I can take the day off.
Maybe
Take a
that's
daddy
what
day.
we'll do.
Get my feet done.
Well, I had an opportunity to sit down with Cynthia Jones from the Henry Ford Museum and talk to her a little bit about it. And I asked her to tell me about the science behind the Pixar exhibit. Here's what she said.
The science behind Pixar is phenomenal. It's over 70 interactive things that you can do inside of it. So it's a very hands-on experience, both digitally hands-on, but also physically manipulating and making characters and just having fun with it. But what it is really about and why we love it is Pixar was an innovator in their field, right? So Pixar changed the entire concept and the way that we see animated films. So we love it from the innovation perspective. We love it from the hands-on, lots of things to do perspective. And we love it, so it's the science behind Pixar. So how do you make these amazing movies? How is the process of making an animated film carried out? What are all the stages of that? What's the research that they have to do to make these films possible? So we love it from that science, technology, engineering, math component because it gets into the careers of Pixar. which we as guests, as customers, as people who go to the movies, we just love the film, right? They all have emotional resonance. They all make us happy in some way. But we don't often think about how does that all happen, that there was a process to it that maybe we could eventually be part of.
This sounds like it's right up your alley.
It's exactly up my alley.
I mean,
as an engineer and a very, very smart individual, incredibly intelligent individual. Light refraction,
dare I
all that
say,
stuff.
stable genius.
Stable genius.
Stable genius.
Matter of fact, I'm getting a T-shirt made.
It says stable genius.
Don't steal my idea, man. No, but seriously, man, the engineering part about it, I'm also an artist, so I'm very into the whole design of the angles and the light refraction and so on. That's fascinating to me. This is exactly what I needed.
Yeah, well, then you would love this exhibit. So, I mean, I basically went down the list. I basically started naming movies and said, look, tell me what you're doing with these movies in the exhibit. And we started with Monsters, Inc.
We use that film in the exhibition to talk about how do characters move. So monsters, I think, are perfect for that. So as a kid, drawing interesting, creative, unusual monsters was probably something some of us might have doodled in our notebooks. I doodled that in my notebook, but I never took it to the stage of, oh, I wonder how you make that move on film. So how does somebody who's really big and bulky and hulking, how do they move their body differently than somebody who's small and maybe on like octopus tentacles? And the exhibition actually shows you the process of rigging. So digital rigging, what is the skeleton of each of those characters? And then what is the math and the science of digitally how you move those characters on film?
By the way, if you want to know what it's like to see somebody who's big and hulking walking around next to somebody who's really tiny walking around, I think you could just look at you and me.
I was just thinking that monsters. Oh boy,
we're kind of like Mike and Sully.
Yeah, Mike and Sully. Well, I'm.
Yeah.
And you're Seth.
I am. It's not far. I also asked her about the movie Up because that's one of my favorites. I love
the best.
Yes, and here's what she said.
If you're into film, you have to understand that light is mood, light is emotion. And so the film Up, the wonderful love story of Up and kind of the sadness and that there's small, basically shoebox size sets that you can experiment with changing the lighting. So how does having the sunlight pass through this room set change the mood?
I do that at my home, right? Like I just put if I want to make it romantic, I just get like a t-shirt of a certain color and hang it over the lamp. Kind of set the mood. It doesn't work so well. Maybe I need to go play
1985 call, Seth.
Yeah. We are, of course, in the Motor City, so I had to ask about the movie Cars. Here's what Cynthia said about that.
There is a section with Cars that gets to surfaces. What does a rusty car look like versus a super shiny car? There's a really fun hands-on that you can do where you can change the look of a hood. My personal favorite, you can make it look like jelly beans. You can make it look super sparkly. So you can really start to understand surfaces and texture, and then how that plays out in an actual animated film.
What does a jelly bean car look like?
Don't go in mine. Yeah. It's called the candy wrapper car.
Yeah.
No, really. This is all up my alley. Being a designer and engineer and an artist and all, the way she's describing and detailing, those are things, surfaces. Those are things that I use. That's what I used in my daily walk.
Right.
So. Yeah.
No. I mean,
outside of being a comedian.
Well, and to know the how-to, not just to appreciate it and see the final product, but to see how they made it, I just think is very cool.
Dope.
The surface of my car, by the way, is just dirty. It's just.
I think everyone's from those salt mines.
Yes.
That's what it is.
It's damn salt mines. I also asked Cynthia about A Bug's Life. She told me a little bit about that exhibit as well.
Bug's Life, when you think about making a film about ants, they're miniature. How do you make and then film on a miniature scale? So how do you blow up the world to be big enough? And then what's the cameras like to do that? So for Bugs Life, you can actually crawl into the Bugs Life set and you can pop your head up into it, and then people outside of that can see it on the cameras and start to understand perspective and scale.
Yeah, that's cool, right? Getting in and popping your head in. And
I'm getting excited.
you are, right?
I am, man.
This happens a lot. You listen to this podcast, you're like, I'm going
to do this stuff. I wish I had a podcast that would tell me where this stuff is.
You know what I do wonder if they address, because I don't know if you've heard, there is a theory that all of these Pixar films are connected, that they all take place in the same world and there's references to each other and stuff like that.
I heard that somewhere.
Yeah. I doubt that they bring that up here, but if you've never looked into the Pixar conspiracy theories, go take a look, because it's really fascinating. Anyway, the last movie that I asked about was Finding Nemo, one of my favorites. That's Ellen DeGeneres playing a fish. And here's what Cynthia said about that movie.
So it takes about 2 years to make a Pixar film. Some of that is deep scientific research, because in Finding Nemo, you had to think about, if your fish are swimming really deep in the ocean, what is the quality of light in the water really deep? What is the quality of light closer to the surface? And so there's a great there's a wonderful dory that you can pose next to, and people can change all the lighting. It's basically like being in a television studio and changing all the lighting and really experiencing that.
Yeah, so if you want to go check out the Science Behind Pixar exhibit, it's going to be at the Henry Ford Museum through March 18th. For all the details, you can go to thehenryford.org.
Welcome to the D.
Brief. Funny stuff.
All right, Mike, what's going on in the world of stand-up comedy?
Already at Caesar's Windsor, Sebastian Maniscalco. Super hilarious. This guy is so funny. He was only supposed to be here for one show, and that was a Friday show. But they just added a Saturday show, so you could catch him January 12th and 13th. Big Tommy's in Novi. Jeff Horst.
Yeah.
One of my buddies, man. One of the guys from the Heart of the City show, Comedy Central with Kevin Hart.
The guy who was too busy to make it onto the podcast.
Yes.
But you should go see him. He is a very funny dude. He's a good dude, too.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he'll be at Big Tommy's in Novi Friday and Saturday. Go Comedy in Royal Oak. They have a very cool thing going on there. It's called Snow Day. It's the 26-hour improv marathon, and it benefits the Tim Hayden Memorial Scholarship Fund and Gilda's Club Metro Detroit. And it starts January 13th, and it ends January 14th. So that entire time they're going to be improv.
That's a long time to improv.
That's a long time. There's a lot of different scenes and sketches
Do
and stuff.
I have to be there for the entire 26 hours?
No, but you can dip in. You figure if you go check out a comedy club
I'll go at
or
night,
a bar
come back in the morning,
Right.
something like that. I would totally do that.
Yeah, they'll probably be pretending to be people that are sleeping. Okay. Also this weekend at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, New York funny guy, Joe Matarese. He'll be there Thursday through Saturday. Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, live from Brooklyn. You have comedian Ben Scolaro. He'll be there Thursday through Saturday as well. At Punchline Comedy Lounge, and that is in Southfield, Shawty. The comedian Shawty will be there. He'll be there Friday through Sunday, January 12th through the 14th. And at the Holly Hotel, local favorite Jeff Brannon and Gary George. Jeff is headlining, Gary is featuring. They'll be there at the Holly Hotel, which is a great place to check out a show on Friday and Saturday.
All right, coming up in just a bit, we're going to talk about the theater shows that are happening all around Detroit.
This is the D Brief.
About last week.
All right, Mike, it's been a couple of weeks since you and I have seen each other. We had a little vacation.
Yeah.
What did you do? How was your Christmas? What did you...
Christmas was interesting. My daughter bought me some Elf, the movie Elf.
Yeah.
She bought me some Elf boxers, and it has Will Ferrell's face right next to the opening in the boxers, which made it very weird looking thing.
That's uncomfortable. You don't mind if I don't
No.
if I don't actually see
No,
that?
I'll probably never wear those. But yeah, man, but it was cool. She got a bunch of stuff. Everyone was happy. Christmas is joyous. Blah, blah, blah. I had shows Christmas Eve. It was
You
crazy.
have a family of like 300. How many of you guys all get together for Christmas?
Well, we actually had a dinner. We rented out, my sister rented a hall my sisters got together and they made all the food, and we had a dinner that Friday, so that would be the 22nd.
Sure.
Yeah. And and my siblings got together, we ate, and we hung out and had gifts for the kids and stuff, and that was cool.
Yeah, I don't need a whole haul for my family. There's just not that many of us.
Yeah, man. But it was the first time because my mother passed last year, and we would go to her place in shifts. So everyone, whoever had to work, they would come over later or throughout the day or whatever. But
so you wouldn't
bring
even
your pod,
see all your relatives, your brothers and
not at all.
sisters, depending on what shift you got.
Not at all.
Would you draw straws, or you just went?
No, you just showed up when you showed up. You had other family stuff that you did. You opened up gifts and all that. And you would go over and hang out for a few hours. Some would come. It would get too hot because it's always hot in a black household. They always keep the heat on 95. I don't know why. And then you would leave at least 5 pounds lighter because you just sweated off all of that food. But yeah, that's what we did this year, and it was pretty awesome.
Well, I had it out of town because I'm from California. That's where I grew up. Even though I bounced from city to city to city in the meantime, and went. So what happens for me, my Christmas wish list is everything that is left over on my Amazon wish list at the end of the year that is small enough that I can fit it in my suitcase and come back. And so I just tell my family, buy me these things. But I got Michigan day trips, a little book that will tell me where to go and things like that. So yeah. I'm pretty excited about, I mean, we've been exploring the city through this podcast, but I get to see the rest of the state a little bit too.
It's a beautiful state, man, especially in the summertime. I used to go and travel around the entire coast of the LP, that's the Lower Peninsula, start in Pontiac and go to the east side of the state and take it all the way around the coast and then shoot back across 94 to get home.
I went to Sleeping Bear Dunes this last year. Oh my God.
I don't want a heart attack.
That place is amazing. Oh, have you been?
Yes, but I'm not climbing those dunes.
Oh, I didn't climb them.
All right. No. You're like, look, dunes. And
right,
you just drove.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
We camped there though. Oh, that place was awesome. So, and then New Year's, you do anything? It was cold.
New Year's was the most spectacular New Year's I've ever had.
Really?
I was, I had a couple of shows up at Fisher Hall and Frankenmuth, and big shout out to Melissa Hager for having me up there. I opened for a very funny local comedian who's out in California now, Matt McClowry. Rocked out the first show. Second show was incredible. Then we counted down the ball together with other comedians that had shows in the area. They showed up, like Sal D'Amelio and Tommy Thompson. Tommy Thompson's dad. The first time I met him, he was there. I know I'm forgetting a couple people, but it was magical, man. It was freezing cold, but it was magical.
It was a Comics New Year.
It was a Comics New Year.
It was cold. So, yeah, we were going to go see the ball because I didn't even realize Detroit had a ball until we had the...
Yeah, they dropped the D. They don't drop the ball.
Until we had the ladies from After 5 Detroit in here. But, no, it was too cold. We just wound up, nah.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. All right, coming up in just a moment, we're going to talk about the Plymouth Ice Fest, speaking of cold.
This is the D Brief.
On stage.
All right, Mike, let's take a quick look at the theater shows that are coming to town. The Detroit Rep Theater has the Michigan premiere of Dauphin Island. Ringwald Theater in Ferndale has Let the Right One In. Have you seen this movie?
I have seen this movie.
It's a creepy movie. Right?
I've seen the American version and the other version.
Yeah, so I would actually be very curious to go and see the stage play. Slipstream Theater has Tales from the Mitten. That's by Michiganders Luna Alexander and Dan Johnson. The Untheater Co. has Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind. This is an attempt to perform 30 plays in 60 minutes.
Wow.
That's
like a football game.
Yeah, that's two. Yes, it is. And finally, Saturday, January 13th, you've got the Moscow Festival Ballets doing Swan Lake. That is at the Music Hall.
This is the D Brief.
Get out of town.
All right, so have you actually been to the Plymouth Ice Fest?
I have several times. A lot of ice. I don't know if you know this.
Not
a festive ice.
I assumed it because of the name.
That's the Ice Fest.
This is all about ice carving.
It is.
That is at the heart of this festival.
There's some fire there too.
All right. I like ice. I like fire. No, I mean, I love the ice carving. I love to go see like really cool, well done, because and often they do it right there in front of you. So it's pretty amazing to watch. Well, it's coming up. It's this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's been going on for decades. I mean, this is a huge event for the town of Plymouth. And so I actually sat down with James Gietzen. He's one of the organizers. He runs this, the little team that puts together this event every year, and talked to him about the history of the Ice Festival. Here's what he said to me.
The Plymouth Ice Festival is a 36-year tradition that has been taking place in the Plymouth community. It's all about the ice. We're one of the largest free ice carving events in southeastern Michigan. It's started as a thing for the community that the hotel in town started for something for their guests to go and see. They just started with a couple of ice cubes in the park, and a carver went out there and carved it. And it's grown into this 100,000 plus attendance festival over the last 36 years. It really has been a tremendous impact on the local economy. Businesses are able to make it through the wintertime because of the additional funds that they bring in throughout the weekend. So it really has been part of the Plymouth community and what makes Plymouth Plymouth.
100,000 people is a lot of people at an ice festival.
Yeah, just look at some ice cubes.
Still, it's grown quite a bit since.
It is.
I mean, in all seriousness, those ice cubes are pretty damn cool.
It is. It's just a lot of hustle and bustle, man. If it were in the summer, it'd be like an arts beats and eats type of thing. But it's a lot of fun.
It's like with Olaf, the snowman there.
Yes.
I asked James about the ice carving because I wanted to know a little bit more about it. I just think it's a cool art form. Here's what he told me.
The ice carvers start with a 300-pound block of ice. It's roughly 44 inches by 22 inches by 10 inches thick. After that, they put a template on there, and they take their chainsaws and they get kind of a rough cut of what the carving is going to be. And then from there, they take die grinders and chisels and chisel it down to exactly what they're looking for. And then last, the thing people always love the most is to make them crystal clear. They take a torch and they kind of blow the hot air over the edges of it, and it melts the ice just enough to get rid of all of the impurities and take all the snow off, so that it becomes crystal clear at that point, and people love to see that part.
300 pounds is not a small ice cube.
No, that's a me.
I mean, I'm just saying, when chainsaws are the tool of your trade, you're pretty badass.
Yeah, really.
They actually have something there called Dueling Chainsaws. Here's what James said about it.
Ally Financial has partnered with us to bring back our signature event, the Dueling Chainsaws. We give 4 ice carvers a block of ice, their chainsaw, and one other tool, and 15 minutes. So they really have to buckle down and carve fast, and you get to see a lot of snow fly. That'll be Saturday night at the festival, and it surely is one of the most spectacular ways to see ice carved, because they're working hard. There's a lot of ice flying around. We even let the crowd pick what they are going to carve. So it's a lot of fun. It's interactive, and just a really high energy experience at the festival.
That's badass. I'm going to give you a chainsaw, and here's 15 minutes, and you got to carve something out of ice.
There will be a lot of blood. There will be blood. That's all I'm saying.
And they're taking requests from the crowd.
request.
Free bird. That's pretty cool. I asked James what was going to be new at this year's festival, and here's what he said.
So the DTE Energy Foundation partnered with us this year to bring in a new experience. It's a tubing run that will be over 125 feet long. You can buy $5 all-day passes or $2 a ride pass, and you can go down the hill. It's made out of synthetic snow, so that no matter what the temperature does, it can rain, sleet, snow, it will be able to tube in downtown Plymouth for the first time in many years.
You a tuber?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
I just keep thinking of Chevy Chase and Christmas Vacation on the little metal thing. That would probably be me. I will destroy the Ice Festival.
Just a trail of fire leaving behind you. Well, there's fire at the Ice Festival as well. They have these fire and ice towers. Here's what's going on with those.
The fire and ice towers is something that we've been doing for a few years now. We build these 10 to 15 foot towers. They kind of act as chimneys, and we put a bunch of wood inside of them, and we light them from the bottom, and we can get like a 10 to 15 foot flame shooting out the top, and it's very cool. We do that Friday and Saturday night around 7:30. They last about an hour and a half. They're not shooting out the top the whole time, but it is fun to watch the ice melt away and wait for them to fall over.
I'm telling you, man, this is my kind of event. You've got ice, you've got chainsaws, you've got fire.
That says 10-year-old boy all over it.
Oh, my God, yeah.
All over it.
So if you want to go, you can get all the details at PlymouthIceFestival.com. Coming up in just a moment, it's going to be MLK Day, and we'll talk to you about what you can do to celebrate.
Action. This is the D Brief.
On the screen.
All right, Mike, what's going on in the movie theaters?
A couple of very interesting movies. Big movie, The Post, with Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
It's coming out. It's got an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes.
This is about the Washington Post, right?
Washington
Is this about
Post.
the Pentagon Papers?
Yes.
So this is timely. I mean, it's about a historical
Very timely,
event,
considering
what we're
with
dealing
all the
politics that are going on.
Right.
Yeah, this. And Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks. Kind of hard to go wrong there.
Kind of hard to go wrong. And Steven Spielberg directs it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
I think they're just printing out Oscars for each of them.
Yes.
I'm also in the movie theaters this weekend. Proud Mary with Taraji P. Henson, where she plays a pretty kick-ass, tough chick, if so to speak. A lot of shooting.
A lot of shooting.
A lot of shooting, a lot of fighting.
All right.
And it's Taraji P. Henson.
This is an action film.
This is very action.
All right.
We thought Proud Mary was some kind of like...
I thought it was Tina Turner. I don't know why I was thinking that.
Oh, no. You would be wrong, my friend.
All right.
I recommend it. It doesn't have a rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but it looks badass. So I'm rating it a 3,000. Go check it out. Also showing at the Main Art Theater, I, Tanya, which you want to go see.
This Allison Janney, who I love,
Yes.
she was the press secretary on The West Wing.
Right.
She won a Golden Globe for this role. So
Playing Tanya's mother.
Yes. I saw the trailer for this. This looks amazing.
It does. And they also have a cool interview coming up with Tanya Harding on ABC this week. So you might want to check that out too. Because she goes over that whole thing. What's true, what's fake.
And it all happened here in Detroit, right?
All happened here in Detroit, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. Woohoo! So.
A lot of kneecapping. That's how we do it. Don't come around here with your fake skating. You will get kneecapped. That's how we won our last 2 Stanley Cups. We just kneecapped the other team. Call Me By Your Name is also at the Main Art Theater. At Maple Theater in Kitchen and Bloomfield, The Shape of Water.
That's another Golden Globe winner.
Another Golden Globe winner.
Best Director, yeah.
Yes. The Greatest Showman is there, and Darkest Hour. Detroit Film Theater at the DIA. You could check out the best of the 2017 New York International Children's Film Festival, Saturday and Sunday the 13th and 14th, and also King, about Martin Luther King, a film record. Montgomery to Memphis is on Monday, January 15th, which is Martin Luther King Day.
Yep.
Celebrated here. Redford Theater, Wes Anderson's Royal Tenenbaums. It's Friday, January 12th. I love that movie. One of my favorite movies ever.
Are you a Wes Anderson fan?
Huge Wes Anderson. Listen, man, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, I have watched that movie so many times, I can tell you line by line. It is my favorite, one of my favorite movies ever.
Really?
Ever. I love that movie.
I've never seen it. I'm going to have to go see it.
Dude. Stop action. George Clooney playing the Fox. Meryl Streep playing his wife.
All right, I'm in.
Dude.
I'm in. I'll go see it.
It's dope. It's stop action, for kids, but you'll like it. And also Cinema Paradiso. That's Saturday, January 13th. That's another movie I really love.
Yeah.
It's an Italian film. This little kid, and it's during the war. And just check it out. I love the movie. The score is by Pat Metheny, my favorite jazz musician ever.
All right, stick around. In just a few minutes, Robin Runyan's going to stop by. She is the editor of Curb Detroit. She's going to tell us all about what's going on with the real estate here in the city.
I would like to say to the people of Detroit,
I can feel the difference.
Come down to Detroit.
The Detroit Institute of Arts.
The Detroit Zoo.
Michigan Science Center.
Detroit Cocktail Classic.
The Arab American National Museum.
The Little Caesars Arena.
The Henry Ford.
Eastern Market.
The Kier Line.
The Detroit Derby Girls.
Motor City Brew Tours.
I think everybody can feel it.
it's a comeback story that everybody's been rooting for.
Detroit is moving.
And you're listening to The Debrief.
And you are listening to The Debrief.
The Debrief. Debrief.
The Debrief.
All right, Mike. Monday, January 15th. That, of course, is Martin Luther King Day. Let me ask you something. You've raised kids in this city. How do you celebrate Martin Luther King Day?
I actually take the day off because at my job we don't get the day off, even though the kids are out of school. And since my oldest kids were little, I would take them down to Detroit, and we would go around the DIA, go to libraries and stuff, try to learn something or teach them something about Martin Luther King, and check out the city. I mean, let's be frank. And I plan on doing the same thing with my youngest. A lot of cool things going on in the city. So I think it's imperative as parents. Yeah, it's a day off for your kids. If you can do it, take your kids out to Detroit. Take them to the library. Every library has something going on. I'll give you a few things that are going on in Detroit, in and around Detroit. The Pistons, they usually play a Martin Luther King matinee afternoon game on that day. They're playing the Hornets this year. I mentioned that earlier.
Right.
Yeah, so they're playing the Hornets this year. Go check that out, man. It's a fun time, and then kids are all over the place.
So there's more kids out at that game than there are usually because of the holiday?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you haven't gotten a chance to take your kids to go see a game.
Yeah, and the 18th annual Martin Luther King Day commemorative breakfast and the Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration, that's happening at the Charles H. Wright Museum. So you can spend the whole day there. I
was reading that this is the busiest day of the year for the Charles Wright Museum, that just tons of people come out on Martin Luther King Day to go check out the museum. I haven't had I've been there for the Secret Society of Twisted Storytellers, but I'll be honest, I haven't had an opportunity to go through the exhibits yet, and I'm really looking forward to going and checking it out.
It's stunning.
Is it?
Stunning. Been there a few times. Takes you back. Takes you aback, rather, to see the displays and all that. But it's a must-see, especially if you're in the city. You have to go check it out. The Peace Walk celebration in Southfield, Michigan, that's happening also. Martin Luther King Day, celebrated all over the place. Henry Ford Museum, at the DIA, Detroit Institute of Arts, U of M Detroit Center, Detroit Historical Society, all of that is happening down there. Every library in the area is having a Martin Luther King Day celebration. So please go check those things out.
So there's no excuse not to.
There's none at all. You don't even have to go to Detroit, although I urge you strongly to go down.
Did Dr. King have any Detroit connection or?
Actually, he does, Seth. We'd ask. On June 23rd, 1963, the Detroit Walk to Freedom, Dr. Martin Luther King led 125,000 people down Woodward Avenue in a march, Walk to Freedom. As a matter of fact, part of his speech, the I Have a Dream speech, was told there, was first told there. So,
like an early iteration.
Early iteration.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big open mic to start practicing your material at.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
In front of 125,000 people, if it didn't go right.
That's a lot of people walking down Woodward.
That's like my family at Christmas. Just my brothers and sisters.
All right, so take the day off if you don't have it off.
Please
of work,
do.
And go spend it with your family.
You might learn something. If you don't, your kids don't, you might learn something. Go check it out.
There's a lot going on. Coming up in just a moment, we'll take a look at what's happening in the world of sports.
The Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
All right, Mike, we've got a very special guest in studio today. I'm a big fan of the website Curbed. You've seen this website. It's like the kind of real estate. It shows you what's going on and which neighborhoods are coming up. And, I was saying this earlier. The feature that I love is when they say, here's what $1,000 can get you in all these neighborhoods. And they show you apartments of all different neighborhoods. You can kind of compare.
I'm telling you, it was different back then. It was different.
I vote in all those.
$1,000, you could buy an entire block.
Yes.
If you wanted.
So I'm a big fan of Curbed. And we have the editor of Curbed Detroit here in studio with us, Robin Runyan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, tell me how you land this job. How do you wind up writing for Curbed Detroit?
That's a great question.
I used to read Curb Detroit a lot before I moved here. I lived out on the West Coast for 7 years, and I moved to Detroit in 2014. And I was an obsessive reader of Curbed. I love old buildings. I love houses. Detroit has a fascinating story. I saw the job come up a couple years ago, and I thought, I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. I'd written kind of some sports type things before, and I think that that kind of helped a little bit. And I love writing about Detroit, so I kind of went from there.
That's amazing. So you said you moved here, so you're not born and raised in Detroit.
No, I grew up in northern Michigan, and I lived in Kalamazoo for a long time through college and grad school, and I lived in the Pacific Northwest for 7 years.
So she's like me. She moved here a couple of years ago and, winds up doing a media thing about Detroit. I mean, I don't know about you. I've learned a ton doing this podcast and the other podcasts that we've done.
I learn so much every day, and I feel like I know everything and I know nothing at the same time every day.
Yeah, that's Detroit.
What surprised you the most about this city as you've gotten into the sort of the nitty-gritty of it?
I think it's... I try not to sugarcoat it for people. I don't think it's a very easy city to live in, but I think that you really need to be present and friendly. I think it's a super friendly city.
What do you mean you don't, it's not an easy city to live in?
It's still, if you're used to living someplace that has a grocery store right around the corner, or just kind of basic things where you need to just run and get something, it's not always going to have that. And also when the city's frozen over for a week.
Yeah. Or two.
Or two.
But that's changing, right? I mean, because that was one of the first things that I remember reading about Detroit, even before I moved here, was that there was no grocery store downtown.
Right.
And I didn't realize it till you and I talked to Heather J, and she was, because you moved to Detroit and there were all those billboards that say, eat more vegetables, which I always thought was odd. I'd never seen that anywhere until somebody said, no, that's because there's no grocery stores in downtown Detroit. The only place you can get your
it's just
vegetables.
Food deserts,
right.
So you had to go, well, a lot of people, if they don't have cars, they had to take the bus to the suburbs, buy their food, and then drag that food back. That's a lot. So yeah, Whole Foods opening up there, Kroger, Kroger's.
There's no Kroger.
Well,
there's no
Kroger's. Right, there's no Kroger's. There's Myers.
But there's going to be a Meijer next year on East Jefferson.
See, this
patiently waiting.
You have the same telltale that I do. This is how people know that you're not from here originally. We don't put the S on the end of Myers.
I try not to talk like I'm Midwestern. When I lived in the Pacific Northwest, it was very apparent.
I corrected myself. I said Meyer, but I was like, no, it's Myers.
But I mean, this is all changing, right? I mean, you must have seen a ton of change just in the couple of years that you've been here.
Yeah, definitely. And there's definitely more places to go and more places to get stuff now. I think it's fun to watch it change. I think it's really exciting when I get emails that say, oh, hey, there's a new development, FYI. I think that's really cool because it helps everyone around when that happens.
Right. Talk to me about some specific neighborhoods that you're seeing a lot of change happen in.
Okay. I think we just went through our Curbed Cup, which is this yearly competition that we throw out on the Curbed websites across the country. And we pick like 16 neighborhoods in each city, and we do this bracket type competition. And we start to see certain neighborhoods come through and really kind of rally behind each other. So this year we saw Grandmont Rosedale, which is in the northwest side.
Very nice neighborhood.
A really cool neighborhood.
Yeah.
A lot of great kind of small neighborhoods within the same thing. They really rallied this year, which I thought was so cool. We're seeing a lot happen in the University District, Bagley, Avenue of Fashion area. There's a lot of development up there. But for the Curb Cup specifically, there's this neighborhood, East English Village. They kind of came out of nowhere last year. I didn't expect it. They were up against like Corktown first. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
Corktown.
Right?
Wow.
Everybody loves Corktown.
Everyone, right.
And East English Village just demolished them. Like just knocked them out so quick. And then they went up against a lot of really good neighborhoods, and they won. I went to their neighborhood meeting about a month after that, which I guess every month they get about 100 people to each meeting. just to talk about neighborhood. Yes, 100 people to a Wednesday night.
That's great community involvement.
It is, and they made their own trophy. It was
Nice.
it was so sweet.
Do you have photos of it up on the website?
Yes.
Like a WWF belt or something.
If they lose, do they have to give the trophy to somebody else, or do they get to keep it because they made it?
They didn't lose.
Oh.
And I
They
don't know
don't
if
talk
they ever
about
will.
losing. They don't talk about losing.
Grandmont Rosedale really tried this year to kind of come in and take it, but they couldn't do it. East English Village. And honestly, real estate prices have like really kind of steadily rose in that area. Now they're like really proud. They talk about it, and it's kind of brought awareness to their community, which they're really happy about. So that's great. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of neighborhoods where there's a lot of development coming in, like the East Riverfront, East Jefferson. There's a ton of stuff happening over there. I think we're going to start seeing more in Southwest Detroit, which is also a really cool neighborhood. It's a really dense, tight community as well. Lots of neighborhoods and shops. I think we're going to start to see a lot happen over there.
You know, one of the critiques that you hear about the Renaissance of Detroit is that it's only happening in certain areas. And I think people are often talking about downtown and midtown.
Yeah.
You know, is that true from your perspective, and what are you seeing in these other places?
You know, I think when you look at Detroit, you have to look at it as a whole. So there are definitely places where development is happening and where it's not happening. You know, there was a long decline for a long time, and it's a very big city. So I think it's going to take a while to reach all the neighborhoods, but we are starting to see these neighborhoods kind of on the outer edges, you know, get more development. Like, so it's downtown and midtown, but now we're seeing so much happening in New Center, which is right past midtown.
Right.
I made a map last week because I love making maps, and it was about all the development happening in New Center, and all of a sudden I'm just like adding on and adding on and adding on because there's so much stuff happening there right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in the North End that's going to start to happen. So there's definitely pockets of development happening, but as that continues to happen and more investment starts to happen, real estate prices start to go up, I think more of the areas in between will start to see more attention after that happens.
You know, I've lived in a lot of cities. I've kind of bounced from city to city, you know, over my life, and there's something different about this city that I've just never seen anywhere else, which is, first of all, this is a city that the mayor is measured on how many houses come down, not necessarily how many come up.
Yeah.
You know, and growing up, for example, in Silicon Valley, it's just polar opposite. Mm-hmm. But also, as you look at these houses that are, you know, abandoned and nobody's living there, you look at them and you go, these were beautiful homes once upon a time.
Absolutely.
And you see them starting to turn in different neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the Boston Edison neighborhood to me is a fascinating one.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, you know, that.
Yeah, we've seen a lot happening there this past year. There were, it's weird how it's set up because there's the east side of the lodge and the west side of the lodge. Now on the east side, especially on Boston Boulevard, you have these huge mansions that were once home to the great automakers and the great industrymen, you know, 100 years ago. And 3 of those mansions sold for over $1 million last year, which is, you know, way to go, Detroit.
Yeah, right. That's
and any other city, of course, they would have sold for $8 to $10 million.
Right.
But, you know, we're getting there. But on the west side of the lodge, especially where houses are a little bit closer together, we've seen a ton of them being rehabbed this past year and, you know, sold for. At first, it was over $350,000. Now it's getting more towards $450,000, and that's just in a year.
Wow!
So that's pretty incredible.
It's happening quick.
Yeah. How does Curb decide what is a good neighborhood or you know, because I mean, you still have schools that you have to contend with. Mm-hmm. Is it just the amount of new builds or businesses that are moving in, or do you have a certain criteria that you use?
I don't know if there's criteria. I try to look at houses individually. Like if I'm going to post a listing, a house that's for sale, hopefully it has great pictures. Ideally, many times they don't. People love to look at houses.
Oh,
FYI. You love to look at houses.
I'm a fan of it.
I do. Like, I honestly, I'll just on a weekend just for fun, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if it looks like a lot of, care went into the renovation, if it looks like more stuff is happening around there, or if it's kind of somewhere out in left field. Like, we've had a few houses that there's not a lot happening around there, but they actually look really great. Like, the renovations have been fantastic, and they're selling for a price that you're not going to find in another neighborhood. So, yeah, I try to do comparisons of, like, I'll pick a number one week, like, here's what you can get for $60,000 or $125,000, and that's where I'll really try to find different neighborhoods.
I love those. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, stick around for a couple of minutes because I want to find out more. I know that there's a lot going on with hotels and other things in real estate, so we're going to talk to you about all that in just a moment.
The D Brief. D Brief.
Sports report.
All right, Mike, what's going on in the world of sports?
All right, man. Well, the Pistons, they're playing just above 500 ball halfway point through the season. They have 3, should be pretty easy games. They're all below 500 teams. The Brooklyn Nets, Chicago Bulls, and the Charlotte Hornets, they play them this week. Our beloved Red Wings that are trying to get their stuff together just had a 4-game winning streak snapped. First one of the season. They're on the road, man. Taking on the road against the Pens, the Blackhawks, and the Dallas Stars. That should be fun.
Now, Robin, I got to ask, are you what sport are you a fan of? You basketball, hockey?
I did go to a Pistons game a few weeks ago.
How painful. I mean, did you enjoy it?
It was an experience.
All right, answer this question. How long did you sit in your seat before you got up and just started walking around?
Listen, I was very good, and I stayed there most of the time. We were actually winning, and it was Star Wars night, our day.
I was there the same day.
So good. So we were leading by a lot for a long time.
Were you the Wookiee, and were you Princess Leia? Did you guys?
No, I was more Jar Jar.
Not that day.
No, I was there the same night. It was cool. That's cool. But I did get up and leave. I'm like, these seats are uncomfortable. I'm a big guy.
Too.
It's like, a lot of junk in my trunk. What the kids say. Yeah. MSU basketball, man, they just lost to Ohio State. They were the number one ranked team. They lost to Ohio State. Yeah, I know, but they'll get it. They'll turn it around. They're playing Rutgers. And in-state game, Michigan Wolverines. They play them Saturday, so that should be cool. That should be really cool. U of M, they play the Spartans, of course, on Saturday in Maryland. A few days later on Monday. Football teams, they're done, and our Lions, man, trying to find a new coach.
We got to talk about this. This is the big story. So the Lions need a new coach.
They fired Jim Caldwell.
And what do you think?
I personally think he should have been given another year. That's my personal feeling. He had to overcome a lot, and they were picked to finish last in their division by a lot of people. He got them almost to the playoffs. They were basically 3 inches away from going to the playoffs if they would have beaten Atlanta.
Robin, you have an opinion? You want to coach the Detroit Lions?
I will. It's really tempting, but I think I'm good.
Who do you get to go coach that team, though? I mean,
there are a lot of names being, bandied about and all that, but Matt Patricia, New England defensive coordinator, they can't talk to him right now because they're in the playoffs. Once they're out of the playoffs or they win a Super Bowl,
then they can
formally have that conversation with him. But they can't offer him anything right now. No, I take that back because they're on a bye week. They could talk to him. Rumor has it that he's a front runner.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
I heard Omarosa's looking for a job.
I heard a lot of people are. Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey's looking for a job. I don't think they should hire Kevin Spacey.
No.
All right. Coming up in just a few moments, we've got a pop quiz about salt mines. We're going to see if you know the answer. That's coming up.
This is the D Brief.
Want more?
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Go to the debriefdetroit.com.
All right, we have Robin Runyan here with us. She is the editor of Curb Detroit, knows everything about the real estate scene. I mean, you've been following it. Yeah, she grimaces when I say that. She's like, she knows a lot.
Everyone's going to come to you now.
What is your favorite feature to write for Curb? Because you do have a lot of cool things that you do over there.
My favorite thing is when an old building is being rehabbed and the guys, whoever's doing it, they're like, hey, come over, let's do a tour, let's do pics. Or when a building is in the process process of being rehabbed and we get to go tour it. That's absolutely my favorite thing.
Yeah, when my older kids were younger, we would go to Detroit just to look at the architecture. We would just walk the streets and look up at the buildings and all of that. I love it. They have some of the most phenomenal architecture in the downtown area.
So do you get to see the inside of buildings that other people wouldn't normally get to see?
Yes.
What are some of the things that you've seen?
One really cool one that we did was back in September or so, and it's this old police station. It's outside of Eastern Market. It's down Gratiot just a little bit, but you can see everything from there. It's like right on the corner, and you can see Eastern Market. You can see it downtown. And these guys bought it, and they're going to put like a co-working space on the ground floor, and they're going to move their business into the second and third floors.
Oh, wow.
And apparently this place, like, it really had an odd owner before, and they threw this wild Super Bowl party. I think there was like a hot tub on the third floor. J-Lo might have been there. There was a lot going on there.
That wasn't a Kwame party, was it?
I don't.
Who do you see moving in and buying these properties? I mean, is it, besides the usual pizza and Quicken Loan suspects?
Those guys buy a lot of them. It's a lot of, 30-something guys, investors who are, moving their businesses into places or, deciding to take on renovating townhouses or something that, they've been doing houses for a while and they see an opportunity and they go for it.
And these are people from the area usually that are renovating or people from other cities?
Mainly. I think there's a good mix of them, but there's a lot of guys who have been around here for a long time who are doing it.
Now, I want to ask you about the hotels and what's going on with hotels in this city.
Yeah, this is going to be 2018 is going to be a wild year for hotels. So last year we saw the Foundation Hotel open up across from the Cobo Center, and this was an old fire station, an old fire headquarters downtown.
That place.
Yeah, it's
so dope, man.
Like, we knew it was going to be a big deal, and then we saw it and we're like, oh my God, this is
phenomenal.
This is a really
it's
big
phenomenal.
Deal.
Like, it's breathtaking.
Yeah, it looks like no other. So
the food is good.
Yeah, it's very good. So that opened last year, and that's been a really big deal for Detroit. And people see celebrities there all the time and everything. And it's cool. Like it's a destination. The hotel itself is a destination. And so this year, we're going to see 3 hotels open up in downtown that are within 2 blocks of each other, which is crazy. So the first one to open will be the Siren Hotel, and that's in the Wurlitzer building. And so this is a building that had been literally falling apart for years. And people thought it would be torn down, but it literally pieces would fall onto unfortunate people. And
bystanders.
There was a large sign next to it from the coffee shop that said "Free coffee for life for anyone who buys the Wurlitzer building." Well, a company bought it a few years ago, and I think it's going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing the design of it because I think it's going to be super different for Detroit. I think it's going to be really bold. I think the colors will be really cool. And there's a whole bunch of restaurants opening up inside of it too. So nice. That's up first. That's going to open, I think, within a month. Like they're almost ready to go. And then there's the Shinola Hotel.
Cannot wait.
So
cannot wait for it.
Shinola and Bedrock, Dan Gilbert, they all got together, and this is like they took most of a city block and they're redoing it. Like they're building on a parking lot and they're redoing, a few old buildings and building new stuff, and they're activating an alley in between it. Like it's going to be crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the other one that's going to be opening hopefully this year is the Metropolitan Building, which was vacant for nearly 40 years. And that building is one of my favorites in the city. It's stunning. And it's going to be the Element Detroit Hotel. And it's the same guys who redid the David Whitney building, which I think is the most beautiful building. It has the most beautiful lobby in Detroit. So they're doing that one, and that should open by the end of the year, hopefully.
Now, is there a lot of demand for this? Because we're starting to see, Lonely Planet,
yes.
New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
We were even mentioning earlier that CBS this morning just did
I saw that.
Yeah, right? And they just named this a place to visit in 2018.
Yeah, and people are starting to see it. I think with the arena opening up last year and the hotels, people are actually seeing, it was only a few years ago that the bankruptcy happened, and like everything was not looking great at all. And now people on the outside are like, wow, it's actually, stuff is actually happening down here. This could be a place to go to again. And so, I hope the demand is there. I think it will be. I hope our sports teams do better and create more of a demand for people to come down here, since we have all these great arenas.
They do have one of the rounds for the NCAA finals happening down there this year. So that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge to get a round there, and eventually that puts them in the running for hosting the finals eventually, which when they had it here, maybe 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, downtown was electric. It was ridiculous because Michigan State made it to the Final Four that year. Right. So it was crazy down there. So I'm happy. I'm excited. All of these boutique hotels and stuff. Trumbull and Porter.
Yeah.
It's so innocuous. And you see this giant mural on the outside of the building. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Is it because it's like it looks like Michael Jackson's shoes or something.
Have you been on the inside? There's
this little. That's what I'm saying.
Like outside area where people can go and chill out.
So dope. You walk in, it's like, what is this place? Like, oh my God, and they'll show you the rooms. The rooms are anyway, I'm going on and on. So I'm excited for all of these other boutiques though, especially Shinola.
Yeah.
You mentioned restaurants. Are we seeing a lot of restaurants opening up in the city?
Yeah. There's been a ton of stuff this year and next year. I can't keep up with it. And I can't visit all of the new ones.
I understand.
I don't know if anyone can.
I think we've reached capacity though on our Coney Islands.
No more
Coney Islands.
And honestly, burgers too. There are too many burger places. I love a great burger, but there's a point where we need some other cuisine.
There you go.
Now let me ask you about renting versus buying in the city of Detroit. Like, what is this?
It depends on what you're looking for and what you're looking to do. Because I know a lot of people who want to buy in the city who have a really hard time finding the right place in the city. We're seeing a lot of investors come in and buy up affordable properties.
And then sitting on it?
Yes.
And
and these are like properties that are in pretty decent shape too. So that sucks.
Right.
And I hope that stops happening. Because I know a lot of people really want to move into the city, and there's a lot of new residential places opening this year as well, like new condos in Brush Park and Midtown, which is great because people want to buy. They want to spend money. But we need more single-family homes to be renovated and, affordable for people to live in.
What about both taxes and schools? Talk about, because I know that those are two issues that must come up often.
Yeah, people ask a lot about schools, especially, and I don't know what to tell them. I know friends who live in the city and have kids, and they're great, and everything's fine. And I know a lot of friends who will buy just outside of the city because of the schools.
Right.
So I hope they get better soon.
And then taxes are the other things that I hear about.
Yeah, I mean, there's been the whole assessment thing that's been an issue for a long time, that people are paying more than they should. Based on what we get here in Detroit in terms of services for the taxes we pay, it doesn't always equal out that great. So, yeah, taxes are kind of high here. Also, honestly, I think for people moving into the city, car insurance is a huge factor in determining if they want to live inside the city limits or outside the city limits, because it's basically the most expensive place in the country for car insurance.
And there's been talk about creating some kind of car insurance.
Yeah, but it's not happening.
I mean, come on, you're going to fight. You have to fight AAA for that one.
Tried.
Right.
Well, there is MOGO. That's doing well, right?
Yes.
Just more public transit than will be.
Do you have a take on things like the Q line?
I have ridden it. Both before it opened and after.
Right.
It's fine. It's a streetcar. And traditionally, lately, streetcars haven't been doing well in cities. A lot of development has happened around the Q line, which is what they were hoping for. Ideally, maybe. I mean, and what they would like to do is expand it, I think, and down other corridors.
It does feel like there is this effort to get people out of their cars, though, in the city of Detroit.
That'd be great. I would love to ditch my car. I would love that.
Whether it's, like it is Mogo, getting people to ride bikes, or, even closing off some of the streets, downtown, which I know is... there's been like a mixed reaction to, but it's an attempt to make some of these spaces a little bit more pedestrian friendly, right?
Right.
I was down there the very last home game that the Tigers played against Minnesota, which happened to be one of the
I was at
last
that game.
preseason. I kind of figured that's why I mentioned it. And I think it was one of the last preseason games for the Red Wings. So the stadium had just opened for the Red Wings. They had the Tigers down there. They had
it might have been a Lions game too.
Right.
There was a lot happening.
Yeah, a couple of comedy shows. I went to one comedy concert, and there was another big one at the Fox, and it just seemed like it let out at the same time, and it was electric, man. All the people walking around and cars stopping and stuff. It's like, this is what a city of a major city, a downtown should look like.
Right.
And I fully expect that to be amped up come this summer, especially once the Red Wings make it to the playoffs. And the Tigers
Wait, this summer or which summer are you talking about?
Summer 2020 rather.
Well, outside of sports, make some predictions. I mean, what do you think we can look forward to in 2018?
The hotels are opening. The David Stott building will reopen, which I think is really cool. So that's the skyscraper that's kind of orange-ish.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite buildings in Detroit. So that Bedrock's doing that one. They're going to open that one up this year. They're also doing this really big development in Brush Park called City Modern, Brush Park is this beautiful neighborhood with these old Victorian homes, and a lot of them are gone now. And so they're building this very super modern development right in the middle of this very old neighborhood. And I think it'll look really different for Detroit. And they're adding density. They're adding new architecture. I think it'll look really cool. So I live over on the east side in the Villages, and West Village just added a new, very modern-looking apartment building to their neighborhood, which was like the first new development in decades. And at first it was so weird to see it. It just looked so out of place. But now that it's there, it's like it's just part of the neighborhood.
Nice.
It's cool.
Any more Quonset huts? I dig the Quonset huts.
I do too.
I did the Airbnb. We did that.
Did you?
Actually, for Sweetest Day. We did the Airbnb in the Quonset hut, and
I still don't know what that is. I keep thinking you're saying Kwanzaa.
No, it's a hut. It's they used to use them in the military, and they're just these huts in the middle. It's right outside of Woodbridge. So go down the Grand River Creative Corridor. And they're right outside there, and there's about 9 of them, and they're all different shapes, and one of them is like 3 stories high, which is crazy to see in person. Like, you're driving down the road, and you're like, what is this? It's so weird, and I was such a non-believer, and I visited a few times, and it's so cool. Like, the insides are very warm and inviting, and it's so weird.
It is.
That's what's so cool about doing this show with this guy, because he'll take a risk and he'll do all of that stuff. I'm not sleeping outside. That sounds like a camping type of thing.
It's not camping. People live there.
Outside, right? Yeah. What's there's like yoga
rentals
and stuff going on.
They're rentals. People live there. And,
wow.
But some people live and work there. So they're like a jewelry maker. They have like a yoga studio.
I'll check it out.
And you can Airbnb one of them. So
we'll go down and check it out.
I don't know if they're going to build any more, but I think more will be happening in that area, FYI.
Nice. Well, Robin Runyan, editor of Curb Detroit, thank you so much for stopping by.
Awesome.
Thank you. And people can go check out the site, detroit.curbed.com. How often do you do the thing where $800 get you this, or this? I love that.
Every week or two.
Nice.
I try to. Yeah.
If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D.
Brief.
That's it, Mike. Another show in the bag.
Finito.
Yeah. Did you learn something new?
I did learn something new. I learned that they have those Kwanzaa huts.
Yeah, the Quonset huts.
Quonset.
Not Quonset huts.
All right. the Quonset huts.
You should go check those out.
I'm going to go check it out.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Thanks to Robin Runyan from Curb Detroit.
Yeah, man, she was awesome.
And go check out the site. I actually, because I am an architecture, casual fan. I wouldn't say I'm like deep or anything, but I like to look, and I am one of these people who likes to go and look at houses and apartments.
I'm a huge fan of architecture, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Mike Brady.
Did you really?
That was my original. Actually, growing up, that's the profession that I wanted to go into, and life happens, and I ended up an engineer.
I understand. Anyway, in just a few moments, we still have to get to the pop quiz, right?
Yes.
You got to tell me if you can identify the false statement about the salt mines. But before we get to that, a number of people I want to thank, including our guests, Cynthia Jones from the Henry Ford Museum, also James Gietzen from the Plymouth Ice Festival. Go check out both of those. They both look absolutely amazing. Thank you to Jag and to James Clausen, who helped us put this show together. Also, if you want to know more about any of the things that we're talking about, you want to get on our email list so that we can send you more events that are happening each week, go to the debriefdetroit.com. That's our website, and you can sign up for the email there. You can subscribe to this podcast anywhere you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeart, Spotify. We're all over the place.
On any planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any planet.
If you go there, leave a review, say nice things about me, say whatever you want about Mike.
Greater things.
Right. Greater things. We got a mobile app. You got to download it. You played with this yet?
That's the only way to listen to it is on a mobile app.
I think so too.
Download the app, people.
Download the app. It's both for...
It's light lifting.
Right. It's for iOS and for Android. If you want the link to the mobile app, just text the word Detroit to the number 444-999 and we will send it to you. And you can follow us on social media with the Debrief Detroit on Facebook. We also have a Facebook group, What's Going On in Detroit This Week. So go check that out, or What's Happening in Detroit This Week. What's something in Detroit this week? We're at the Debrief on Twitter and the Debrief on Instagram. If you are, you're a venue or you're an event organizer, you put together events and you want to let us know about them, you can send your press announcements to press@thedebriefdetroit.com. All right, Mike, you ready? Let's...
Yes, sir.
Before we get out of here, let's do this pop quiz. We were talking about the salt mines, which are huge. There's this entire city of salt underneath the city
of Lowry salt.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know if it's Lowry.
Seasoning salt.
Yeah, I think it's just rock salt. Anyway, here, three statements. Two of them are true. One of them is false. We have to see if you can identify the false one. Are you ready?
I am ready, Seth.
All right. Number one, the only animals ever in the mine were the donkeys that were brought down into it. There are no mice or other vermin down there. Number two, the miners would dig holes, insert explosives, and then blow out 900 tons of salt in less than 3 seconds. And number three, major Hollywood studios, including Disney and 20th Century Fox, keep original copies of their movies in the mine in case there is a nuclear holocaust or other catastrophic event. Which one of these statements do you think is false?
Oh, man, that's a toughie. I'm pretty sure the donkey thing is true. Because why would you want vermin and mice running around that thing? The thing is huge. You don't want to put mice traps out. Or mouse traps is what we call them. So that leaves the explosives and the film. Film sounds shaky, man. Why would you put film underground in a salt mine? But you're looking at me strange. So I'm going to go with the salt mine.
The explosives? Number two?
Yes, 900 tons sounds a lot.
It does sound a lot, but actually they could blow out 900 tons of salt.
There's
in
no
less than
way.
3 seconds. Yeah.
No way that can happen.
There are no public tours, so you can't go down and see it. But yeah, no, they could blow out 900 tons of salt in less than 3 seconds.
I call bull. That's not right.
Yeah. No, your first instinct was correct. They do not store the films down there. Now, there is a salt mine in, I think it's Kansas, where they do this, but they don't do it here in the Detroit salt mines. Can you imagine keeping your films? I don't know.
Bambi in it? No.
I don't know. Frozen, you probably can't keep down there because it would melt. Get it? All right, that means it's time to go. Before we get out of here, you got to give me homework. I am the new guy. I got to learn about this city. What do I need to know about?
Well, Seth, for a long time, and I think it ended in the 80s, for a very, very long time, there was this cool place that everyone in Canada and Michigan would go to. Very nostalgic. The Pablo Island.
Pablo Island.
Pablo.
I have heard of this.
Pablo Island. There's a boat. There's all kinds of coolness going on.
All right. I'll go find out, and I will report back. Thanks to everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. Please,
yes, we do.
The highest compliment you can give us is to let other people know about the show. And, of course, if you want to be one of our co-hosts, go to the website, thedebriefdetroit.com/co-host. We'll see you next week.
The D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.